He chose you today. Not yesterday. Not one day in the future. Today. And the fact that you are still breathing right now is proof that this moment was kept open for you longer than it was meant to be. I did not come loudly. I did not arrive with thunder. I did not force your attention. Because the God who chose you does not compete with noise. He waited to see if you would notice the stillness. You felt it, do not deny that. That subtle pull in your chest. That interruption in your routine where something inside you whispered, stop. Listen. That moment when your joy suddenly felt hollow, and your distractions lost their flavor. That was not confusion. That was invitation. But you turned away. You filled the silence with movement. You drowned the call with busyness. You told yourself, later. I'll respond later. And heaven went quiet, not because he left, but because you did. I am not here to accuse you. I am here because mercy asked me to speak one more time. You think ignoring God looks like rebellion. Most of the time, it looks like postponement. You didn't say no. You just didn't say yes. And delay is more dangerous than refusal, because delay convinces you that time is neutral. It is not. Every calling has a window. Every assignment has a season where grace flows easily. And every chosen one is tested, not by hardship first, but by hesitation. God chose you today because today you were ready enough to hear. But not ready enough to move. You sensed the urgency and mistook it for anxiety. You felt the weight and called it pressure. You felt the narrowing of options and thought something was wrong with your life. Nothing is wrong. You are being cornered by purpose. When God chooses someone, He does not add things. He removes excuses. That is why things started slipping. That is why people stopped understanding you. That is why comfort became restless. You were not being punished. You were being repositioned. But instead of stepping forward, you looked backward. You reached for familiar patterns. Old coping mechanisms. Safe conversations. Predictable cycles. And heaven watched, not in anger, but in grief. Do you know what it costs heaven when a chosen one hesitates? Not loss of power. Not loss of authority. Loss of alignment. Entire timelines bend around obedience. Entire outcomes shift when one person finally says, I will go. And when you delay, those timelines wait. Others are affected by your obedience more than you realize. Someone's breakthrough is tied to your voice. Someone's healing is tied to your courage. Someone's freedom is waiting on your yes. You are not small in this story. That is why the call feels heavy. Small assignments do not carry this kind of weight. You keep asking God for a sign, while ignoring the fact that you are the sign. Your sensitivity. Your awareness. Your refusal to fully belong to this world. Those were not personality traits. They were preparations. You were never meant to blend in. You were meant to interrupt. An interruption always feels uncomfortable before it feels right. God chose you today because today you stood at the edge of obedience. You felt it. That moment where you almost surrendered control. That second where your pride softened. That instant where you considered laying it all down. And fear stepped in and said, what if I lose everything? Listen carefully now. Take a slow breath and let these words settle deep, because they are not casual encouragement, they are a summons. You stand at a threshold few recognize until years have passed and the ache has become permanent. The fear gripping your heart right now is not truly about losing possessions, relationships, reputation, or even health. Those losses, painful as they would be, are survivable. You have already proven you can endure hardship, adapt, rebuild, and keep going. What truly terrifies you is the prospect of losing the version of yourself that has mastered survival without leaning fully on God. That version is resourceful. It calculates risks, builds contingency plans, relies on patterns it has observed, trusts its own instincts above all else. It has learned how to navigate uncertainty by tightening its grip on control, how to silence doubt with logic, how to dull the ache of divine absence with busyness or distraction. It is the self that says, "I've got this," even when every quiet moment whispers otherwise. And that self must die, not in a blaze of drama, not through some cataclysmic crisis that forces surrender, but quietly, almost imperceptibly, through the steady practice of obedience. Obedience is rarely loud. It does not demand headlines or public declarations. It arrives in small, repeated choices, the decision to pause when the inner nudge comes instead of brushing it aside, the willingness to speak the uncomfortable truth rather than preserve peace at any cost, the resolve to step toward what feels foolish in the eyes of the world because it feels faithful in the secret place of your heart. Each act of obedience chips away at the armor of self-reliance until one day you look back and realize the old version is gone, not because you killed it violently, but because you starved it through neglect and fed something else instead: dependence, trust, vulnerability before God. You were born for this kind of life. Not the polished, predictable existence the culture celebrates, but the raw, faith-fueled journey Scripture describes again and again. Abraham did not receive the map to Canaan, he received a voice that said, "Go." Noah did not get meteorological data proving rain was coming, he received instruction to build. Mary did not have a 5-year plan for raising the Messiah, she had a moment of astonishing invitation and responded, "Let it be to me according to your word." The common thread is not preparation or certainty, it is presence and response. You were born to live by faith, not by familiarity. Familiarity is seductive because it feels safe. It is the well-worn path, the predictable rhythm, the relationships and routines that no longer stretch you. But familiarity can become a cage. It keeps you circling the same territory, achieving the same modest wins, while the larger call gathers dust in the corner of your soul. Faith, by contrast, refuses to let you stay comfortable. It insists on movement, even when the destination remains hidden. It asks you to trust what you hear in the stillness more than what your eyes can verify in the daylight. That is precisely why your environment feels so unstable right now. The ground keeps shifting, relationships strain, opportunities vanish, plans unravel, not as punishment, but as mercy. Stability would reinforce the illusion that you can manage life apart from God. It would let the old self thrive. Instability strips away props. It exposes how fragile self-sufficiency truly is. When the familiar crumbles, the soul is forced to look elsewhere for anchorage. God allows the shaking so that what cannot be shaken remains. Do not hear this as a call to perfection. God is not waiting for you to become flawless before He moves through you. He knows every crack in your character, every lingering doubt, every area where fear still whispers louder than trust. Perfection is not the prerequisite, presence is. He is asking you to show up, really show up, in the place where you are, with the limited strength you have, and say yes anyway. The beauty of the gospel is that grace does not require us to arrive polished, it meets us in the mess and begins its work from there. When Scripture says, "Act now," it does not mean you must solve every problem, launch every vision, or fix every broken thing in your life simultaneously. That would crush you. Act now means respond. Respond to the whisper you already sense. Respond to the scripture that keeps surfacing in your mind. Respond to the person who crossed your path unexpectedly and stirred something in your spirit. Respond with humility that admits, "I don't have it all figured out." Respond with availability that says, "My schedule, my gifts, my time, they are not mine to hoard." Respond with willingness that declares, "Even if it costs me comfort, approval, or certainty, I will move." There is one sentence that has opened more impossible doors than any carefully crafted plan ever could: "I don't know how, but I'm here." Speak it quietly in prayer. Speak it when the assignment feels too large and your resources too small. Speak it when obedience looks like foolishness to everyone watching. That single confession of availability disarms pride, silences excuses, and invites God to do what only He can do. Heaven moves toward humility faster than toward talent, faster than toward strategy, faster than toward strength. The moment you stop pretending you have it under control, you create space for miracle. But the opposite path is real, and it is sobering. If you continue to ignore the gentle but persistent invitation, something shifts, not dramatically at first, but gradually, almost invisibly. The voice does not vanish because God abandons you, it grows quieter because your heart hardens just enough to justify delay. You develop sophisticated reasons: "I'm not ready yet, the timing isn't right, I need more confirmation, other people are more qualified." Each rationale feels reasonable in the moment, yet each one adds another layer of distance. The call remains, echoing somewhere beneath the surface, but your sensitivity to it dulls. What once felt urgent begins to feel optional, then eventually optional becomes forgettable. Beloved child of the Most High, I am sent from the heavenly hosts to speak into the depths of your spirit. I have witnessed this tragedy more times than the stars can count, etched into the eternal records of heaven. Men and women, souls forged in the fire of divine purpose, who once burned with a clear, unquenchable flame. They carried dreams too vast for the fragile shells of their earthly circumstances, visions that stretched beyond the horizons of mortal sight. They heard the unmistakable voice of God Himself, the thunderous whisper that echoes through the chambers of the heart, calling them higher, summoning them to peaks where eagles soar and the air is thin with glory. Yet they hesitated. Not in outright rebellion, no, for their hearts were not hardened like stone against the divine. It was caution that bound them, a web spun from the desire to be responsible, to steward the fragile threads of daily life. Fear of failure whispered lies into their ears, painting pictures of ruin and regret. And so, years slipped away like sand through outstretched fingers. Life marched on relentlessly, careers climbed ladders of earthly success, families blossomed and grew, bills were paid with the sweat of dutiful labor. On the surface, all appeared fine, polished, even enviable. Neighbors envied the stability, friends admired the progress. But in the quiet hours, years later, when the veil of pretense thinned, the tears would come, hot, unrelenting rivers carving canyons of sorrow. In hushed confessions, they would recount that pivotal moment, the sacred instant when heaven's call rang clear as a trumpet blast, when eternity brushed against their finite souls. They knew they were supposed to say yes, to leap into the unknown arms of faith. Instead, they uttered 1,000 small no's, polite deflections, rational excuses, delays disguised as wisdom. They did not lose their salvation, the blood of the Lamb held them secure. They did not become villains, twisting into shadows of malice. They simply settled. And oh, dear one, settling is its own profound grief, a silent mourning deeper than any grave. It is the ache of knowing you were made for mountaintops but chose the valleys, crafted for kingdoms but contented with corners. That grief lingers, a shadow companion, whispering what might have been. Hear me now, for I speak as one who stands before the throne. You were not created to settle. The longing stirring within you, the restless fire that no achievement can fully quench, is no accident, no fleeting whim of the flesh. It is evidence of divine design, a holy imprint from the Creator's own hand. As it is written, He has set eternity in the human heart, that pull toward infinities beyond mere survival, beyond the hollow trophies of worldly success. That pull is the call of God, the sacred summons echoing from the beginning of time. It will not scream forever, thundering like judgment to shatter your resistance. It will not force its way, for love never coerces, never tramples the gift of free will. No, it waits, with astonishing, breathtaking patience, because the Father's heart is boundless mercy. But heed this truth, beloved, waiting too long transmutes holy urgency into the heavy chains of regret. The door to your destiny does not slam shut in wrath, it closes slowly, almost imperceptibly, while you stand watching, comforting yourself with illusions of endless tomorrows. There's always another chance, you tell your soul. Yet seasons shift, opportunities bloom and wither like desert flowers. I have seen souls gaze back at closed portals, their hands empty, their spirits scarred by the what-ifs. Right now, in this very breath, grace hovers near like morning mist, ready to envelop you. Mercy stands at your threshold, knocking softly yet persistently. Your heart remains soft enough to feel the weight of these words. Tender enough to be moved to surrender rather than defensiveness. God has chosen this exact day, not because you stride in your strongest hour, armored in human confidence, but because you are still reachable, still within the orbit of His pursuing love. Tomorrow. That may shift. Not because He withdraws His hand, oh no, His faithfulness endures forever, but because repeated resistance builds calluses upon the soul, toughening the spirit until even the gentlest divine touch struggles to penetrate. Do not mistake His patience for permission to procrastinate, child. Patience is the lavish gift that carves space for your response, a divine pause pregnant with possibility. It is not a blank check for endless delays, a promise that tomorrow will mirror today. I urge you, seize this moment. The angelic choirs sing of those who listened, who stepped forward when the path was shrouded in fog. They became beacons, their lives rippling through eternities, touching souls yet unborn. Mercy knocks with gentle insistence, but purpose does not beg. Purpose is not frantic or desperate, it is steady as the sunrise, certain as the constellations, eternal as the Father's throne. It will find obedience somewhere, whether in the vessel of your life or poured into another willing heart. The invitation is yours today, extended with heaven's full authority, but it is not yours to hoard forever. Someone else hungers for the mantle you were born to wear. This is your moment, not to unravel the entire mystery, not to summon bravery from depleted wells, not to feel the surge of confidence. No, it is to turn toward the call instead of politely averting your gaze. To cease negotiating terms with the Almighty, as if your finite wisdom could improve His infinite plan. To abandon the wait for ideal conditions, perfect funding, flawless timing, unshakable certainty. To stop tallying the cost in cold human arithmetic and begin measuring it against the blazing reality of who God is, the Alpha and Omega, the Provider, the Waymaker. Surrender is not defeat, beloved, it is exquisite alignment. Picture a river, wild and untamed, raging against unyielding rocks, exhausted, directionless. Now imagine it yielding to the current, flowing effortlessly toward the sea. That is surrender, ceasing the futile fight against the current of divine intention and beginning to flow with it. You act not from terror of missing your singular shot, but from profound trust that the one who calls is faithful to complete what he authors and perfects. You need not clarity for the endless road ahead, that is his domain. You need obedience for the next step alone, a single, sacred footfall. That step may be small, almost imperceptible to earthly eyes, a long-avoided conversation that could unlock doors, a habit clung to like a security blanket, one you must release into his hands, a risk you've rationalized into oblivion, now confronted with trembling faith, or simply a quiet yes, whispered in the privacy of your room, before the watchful eyes of heaven alone. Whatever form it takes, he will meet you there. Not with the full blueprint unfurled like a map, but with fresh manna, grace tailored for that precise moment, sustaining you beyond your strength. He will meet you in the swirling uncertainty, where questions outnumber answers. He will meet you in the grip of fear, that ancient foe trembling at his name. He will meet you at the ragged edge where your strength crumbles and his boundless power surges forth. But you must move first. Movement is the irrefutable evidence of faith, the bold declaration that you believe he is good, unfailingly, extravagantly good. That his voice cuts through the noise like a sword of truth. That his plans, though veiled and nonsensical on paper, are woven with threads of gold, leading to harvests of glory. Consider the saints who walked before you. Let their footsteps slow your racing thoughts and steady your breath. They were not carved from marble or crowned with certainty. They were flesh and fear, doubt and devotion, just like you. Abraham heard a call that dismantled everything familiar. Ur was not just a place, it was safety, reputation, routine. Yet a voice pierced the comfort and promised him something impossible to count, descendants like stars scattered across an endless sky. He did not argue with the mathematics of impossibility forever. He gathered his household, packed his questions, and stepped into a land he could not name. He lived his whole life leaning toward a promise he would never fully see with mortal eyes. Still, his obedience rippled forward, birthing nations, shaping faith, teaching generations that a single yes can outlive a lifetime. And Mary, do not rush past her story as if it were gentle or easy. She was young, uncelebrated, and painfully aware of what obedience would cost her. Scandal would shadow her steps. Whispers would follow her through narrow streets. Even those who loved her would struggle to understand. Yet when heaven leaned close and invited her into mystery, she did not demand guarantees. She did not negotiate terms. She bowed her will and said words that still tremble with power, "Let it be to me according to your word." In that surrender, eternity entered time. Salvation took breath. God trusted himself to her yes. These were not superhumans. They trembled. They questioned. They waited through long nights when silence felt heavier than promise. What made them holy was not perfection, but availability. They allowed God to move through weakness instead of waiting to become strong. Their stories burn in heaven's memory not as legends, but as evidence. One step begets the next, obedience unlocks provision, and faith grows legs only when it is walked out. I have also seen the other path, the one few speak of but many choose. It begins quietly, disguised as wisdom. Be practical, it murmurs. Secure yourself first. Dreams are postponed, not denied outright, just set aside for a more convenient season. Years pass. The heart adapts to smaller hopes. Callings are trimmed down to hobbies, then eventually to memories. These souls are not wicked, they are weary. They build lives that look impressive from the outside, orderly, stable, admired. Yet beneath the structure lies a hollow ache. Empires of sand, polished and praised, stand tall until the tide of time washes through and reveals how little was anchored to eternity. In the twilight of their days, when striving quiets and distractions fade, regret becomes a companion they cannot shake. It speaks softly but relentlessly. I heard him, they whisper through tears no one sees. I knew he was calling, but I silenced the voice with logic. I chose certainty over surrender. That regret weighs more than chains, heavier than poverty or persecution, because it carries the knowledge of what might have been. Do not walk that road, beloved. Your life is not a rehearsal. It is the stage upon which eternal consequences are shaped. Now lift your eyes and let me show you the promise reserved for those who say yes. Not the fantasy version, but the true one. When you surrender, the first thing that breaks is not the world around you, but the chains within you. Fear loosens its grip. Shame loses its voice. Clarity does not arrive as a blinding flood, but as gentle light, lanterns placed just far enough apart to require movement. You see enough for the next step, and when you take it, more light appears. Strength comes from places you did not know existed. You wake one morning and realize you are standing in storms that once would have broken you. Doors open, not all at once, but at the precise moment you arrive, their hinges already softened by unseen hands. Relationships align in uncanny ways. People cross your path carrying keys to prayers you prayed years ago. Provision arrives with divine accuracy, not in excess that corrupts, nor in lack that crushes, but exactly what is needed, exactly when it is needed. Joy rises within you, not shallow or fragile, but deep and defiant, able to coexist with tears. You become a conduit, heaven's light flowing through your cracks, reaching the wounded, the lost, the weary. Your weakness becomes the place where grace shines brightest. Yet hear this with sobriety, the hourglass is moving. Time is not your enemy, but procrastination is. It dresses itself as caution and whispers, not yet. Wait until you're ready. Wait until you're sure. But certainty is not the entry point of faith, it is the fruit of it. You do not wait for courage to act, courage is born in the acting. Remember Peter, whose eyes locked on Jesus and whose feet touched the impossible surface of the sea. He walked above the storm not because doubt was absent, but because obedience was present. When he looked away, fear pulled him under. Even then, grace reached for him. Rise now. Step out. The waters will hold, not because you are strong, but because you are called. Do not underestimate the resistance you feel. The enemy trembles at your potential because he understands what a yielded life unleashes against darkness. He magnifies risks, replays past failures, whispers that the cost will be too high and the outcome uncertain. Answer him with truth, not bravado. Greater is the one who dwells within you than any force arrayed against you. The Creator who spoke galaxies into existence has not miscalculated your path. Your life is not an accident wandering toward meaning, it is meaning unfolding through trust. I have delivered this message with as much clarity as heaven allows, words not born of flesh but echoes of the voice that has pursued you long before these lines reached your eyes. That voice thundered over your creation, whispered through dreams you dismissed, tugged at convictions you tried to outrun. It has been patient, relentless, kind. What happens next is not dictated by fate or chained to circumstance. It rests in the quiet center of your will, in the unseen choice forged when no one else is watching. Will you let the old self, the fearful self, the settling self, die quietly through bold obedience? Not through punishment, but through release. Will you speak a confession that reshapes your future? I don't know how, but I'm here, use me. Will you take the next step not because readiness floods your veins, but because grace pulses now, alive and urgent? The call still waits, but it does not wait forever. It waits for you. Choose today. Not tomorrow wrapped in excuses, not someday softened by delay. Today. Rise, beloved. Heaven watches with anticipation, not judgment. Your yes could ignite revivals you will never witness, birth legacies your name may never carry, shift eternities far beyond your sight. The hosts are aligned. Mercy extends her hand. Purpose stands before you, patient yet expectant. Do not settle. Surrender. Step forward. And watch God move mountains through the meek. In His eternal light. Your guardian angel,